If everyone could take their seats, please. Okay, I call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education today, Tuesday, February 22nd, 2011. Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey?
Here.
Mr. Charleston?
Here.
Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mrs. Lubeck? Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item is student recognition. Mrs. Mulby.
I would like to introduce to you Ms. Emma Bronstetter, and Emma is the winner of the Manning School Geography Bee, and the Geography Bee is for 4th and 5th graders, and Emma is a 4th grader and competed against all those 5th graders and did a great job. It was very tense at the end, and it was quite a playoff with a question going to a 5th grader and then to Emma and back and forth. And she was the person that ended up in our top spot. So Emma, congratulations on being the Manning School Geography Bee winner. And congratulations to her parents, too.
And just so that everyone knows, the Miller's Geography Bee winner will be awarded at the next meeting. They're on vacation right now. So at the next meeting, we will recognize the student from Miller. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of minutes. First, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 25th, 2011 Committee of the Whole meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is passed. The next one, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 25th, 2011 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed. And then in your orange folders, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the first closed session of the January 25th, 2011 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Also in your orange folder, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the second closed session of the January 25th, 2011 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
February 8th, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2011 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one, in your orange folder, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the February 8th, 2011 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all of those have passed. Okay, we have a number of public comments here, and if after I call all of these, if you haven't filled out one, if you could please fill out a white card at the back table. Okay, Allison Clemens, please. And I would like to remind everyone that we are, unlike the forum, this is a regular board meeting, so we are going to limit our comments to 5 minutes.
Hi, good evening. I'm Alison Clemens from Westmont Chamber of Commerce, the Board Secretary. The Westmont Chamber of Commerce is fully aware of the financial challenges currently being addressed by Community Unit School District 201 and the goal to reduce district expenses. The efforts of the district board, staff, and families should be highly respected for the way in which everyone is working together to reach such an important goal and still maintain the high quality of education required by District 201 students. As a part of this community process, the Westmont Chamber would like to speak in support of continued fine arts program funding. The Westmont Chamber members have observed firsthand the high-quality education received through the District 201 fine arts programs. Our scholarship program has been supported by art students who donated their work for a community auction that raised funds for our program. We have also enjoyed the talents of the junior high and high school jazz bands at public appearances. Examples include the Westmont Community Awards Dinner, Westmont Winter Ball, and the Westmont Holidays. These types of public appearances help to build confidence and a level of talent that prepares them for the next level of education. A clear majority of colleges and universities require fine arts electives as a part of admission requirements. We must provide our students with these core skills prior to entering college, and we must recognize that a reduction in the fine arts programs can greatly reduce college choices. There are a wide host of benefits that a well-rounded fine arts program offers to students, ranging from discipline learned, to enhancing overall learning capabilities, to expanding critical thinking skills necessary in today's rapidly evolving world. These types of learning benefits will serve our students for their entire life. The Westmont Chamber suggests that every factor be taken into consideration when making any fine arts programs adjustments. Thank you for taking the time to review our comments in support of the district's fine arts programs. The Westmont Chamber stands in strong support of District 201. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Allison, thank you. And I wanted to let everyone know that we did get a copy of your the Chamber's letter, and the board has been supplied a copy of that. The board's received that letter. Thank you. Kelly Reed, please.
Hello. My name is Kelly Reed. I have a daughter who attends Miller in 5th grade, and two things I would like to discuss really quickly would be the budget deficit. Obviously, you know, I know we need to decrease spending, but I need to, in attending the public forums, a lot of things that we've talked about is what is going to be taken away from the school, and that's the only thing that's been talked about. So I think that we need to make sure that we look in other areas, such as the salaries, which I know you're going to discuss tonight. Also, a main concern of mine is through this process I've come to find out some differences between the grade schools, Miller and Manning. Specifically for the curriculum, the Miller school does not have a science fair as part of their curriculum. The Manning school does. There's different events and clubs in the Manning school. I heard somewhere around 20 compared to the 7 that the Miller students are having access to, and I feel that that's really not fair and equitable to them. If there are going to be Manning clubs in excess of Miller clubs, then the Miller students should be allowed to participate in the Manning clubs or invited to attend those clubs as well. Also regarding like the 5th grade basketball, the Manning children have t-shirts, everybody looks the same. The Miller students come in, they don't have that. It's a little bit different. And then there's other things that may be funded by PTO, may not be, regarding chorus events and different things like that. The Manning school gets decorations above and beyond what the Miller students get. So I think there's a couple areas of opportunity to make those students feel that they're receiving the same. And again, as a parent, particularly the curriculum concerns me very much so. The geography bee, my daughter, I didn't hear anything about a geography bee in 4th grade, so as far as I'm aware, I've never heard of such a thing. And there's other things that the Manning student curriculum has that the Miller students don't. So I think that's something that should be looked into. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. James Walker, please.
Again, my name is James Walker, and you know, my comments are somewhat related to the status of our brethren in Wisconsin. And no, I'm not related to Scott Walker. So I would just like to know what kind of possibilities we have to gain concessions on, the budget shortfall. I feel like in everyone's life here, we've had to make concessions. We don't have steak as much, we might have hamburgers, that kind of thing. Well, I think that we have to run this school as a business. And I feel for the woman who spoke earlier that there are some inequities among the situation, and I feel that, we're in this boat together, and I just want to make sure that everyone feels that way, that we are all in this together, and we have to consider everything. We just can't eliminate one without, possibly hurting another person or family or organization. I feel for the teachers. I want them to earn a decent wage. But I do ask that we do consider everything as a possibility. And if it means across-the-board cuts for everybody, that might be the best answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Kretz.
Hi, my name is Susan Kratz. I have a 7th grader at the junior high school, and I would like to think that all parents in our school district would agree that our primary goal is to educate our children. In this case, I'd like to read part of the mission statement for our school district. Part of the school district mission statement reads that it is the mission of School District 201 to provide a safe environment where respect for individual differences and a desire for lifelong learning are fostered, and where students can acquire the skills, knowledge, and behaviors necessary to become fully empowered in a dynamic society. Under educational purposes / goals, it reads, 1, that the district is to provide a comprehensive and challenging curriculum that is in concert with the diverse needs of students, the state and federal requirements, and the educational goals of the community. 2, to deliver educational programs designed to maximize all student learning. Item 5 was to demonstrate fiscal responsibility through sound financial planning and operation, recognizing that student programs are the highest priority. I was at the first public forum regarding proposed budget cuts. There were a lot of public comments. Most of them were stated in a respectful way. I would like to address one of the comments made at the public forum. There was a parent who singled out the special education children. She made some of the most ignorant and hateful comments that I've heard in a long time. She suggested that we deny educational services to our special ed students so our district can maintain extracurricular activities. All parents should agree that our children are all entitled to a fair and appropriate education. All of the children, not just the top 10%. I personally think this parent owes all of our special ed children and their parents an apology.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Robert Plowman.
Good evening. I have a 5th grade Manning student, and I have a recent high school graduate from Westmont. First of all, I'd like to apologize, as I'm ashamed that this is the first time that I took notice of the actual financial issues that the school district is experiencing. And I've been disappointed actually by the size of the audience at the other couple of meetings too, because I believe that not enough people are getting involved. The fact that you are allowing the public to address this situation is proof that this board wants to work with us and do the right thing, and I thank you for giving us the time to voice our concerns. I commend you for that. During the last meeting, we were introduced to cuts that would not significantly affect the children's educational experience. The previous cuts that were made last year are cuts of programs that other neighboring schools, private and public, take for granted. Trimming more would take all of what makes this school competitive with others. You have now removed all of the fat and now have started on the meat. Cutting into that meat will have far more negative impact than some can even imagine. It is my belief that in order to have a strong school system, we need a stronger village and vice versa. Currently, there are more for sale signs and more for rent signs hanging on the downtown doors on Cass than there are open signs. Our small little starter homes have been torn down and replaced with McMansions that still remain empty. Our children that will graduate from college soon will not be able to afford to live in the town that they were raised in. What is the selling point for a young couple wanting to get married and start a family in Westmont if the schools can only offer the minimum and our Main Street looks like a little Detroit? What more is left in Westmont to attract new residents? The gentleman last week claims that he moved from Bolingbrook to find a better education and family life here in Westmont. Who's going to have the guts to tell him that he's right back where he started? We cannot have a strong, thriving school system without a strong, thriving village. And from the looks of things, both are needing some major repair. If more and more cuts are being made, I can assure you that our enrollment will drop and housing values in Westmont will continue to plunder. These programs that will have no significant effect on a child's educational experience are programs that includes the arts. No big surprise there. How much more can we cut before programs become non-existent? You've already cut 50% from there last time, and you are looking again to make more cuts for the theater department. It wasn't just an acting class that allowed my son to get a substantial scholarship after one audition to one of the Illinois' most prestigious liberal arts schools. I'm hoping he will be the next De Niro. But surprisingly, there are many more who have come from this small village while having their eyes set on the arts. Scott Lyons, possibly the next Spielberg, who is learning film at Columbia and directing children at community theaters. Alyssa Allgood, Serena Sacco, taking music in college, possibly the next Streisands. The Jungmans, whose daughter is studying technical theater, possibly a future Broadway bigwig. Brian Doherty, Chris Hartz, studying music at Eastern, future teachers, composers, recording artists. Maybe they will have an avenue named after them. Lastly, all of those garage rock bands, Future Journey, KISS, Matchbox 20, these are just a few who benefited from these programs that had been deemed non-significant. During the set building for the upcoming musical Wizard of Oz, the stage was full of students, but there was not one musician, not one actor or singer. However, there were future carpenters, future seamstresses, electricians, painters, and future crew chiefs. Are you saying that cutting a fall play would not have effect on that situation? Last week, many impassioned parents gave you alternatives to find money without making any more cuts from education. I believe it was Pam that asked the teachers to lower the stipends. It was the gentleman who asked about grade centers. By the way, I've had a child both in Manning and Miller, and there is a significant difference on what's offered and what's the education styles. Inquiry on loans were made. Fee hikes. Most parents are asking to give up more than to lose these programs. There are other ways of making cuts. We just need to take more time to make it to the referendum. You can't expect a decision on what to cut if you haven't been able to give us all the financial information. We as parents and residents at Westmont need to step up and do our part as well. Unfortunately, there are only very few who will find the time to get involved and volunteer. Unfortunately, there are still the same parents helping to build the sets, getting involved with boosters, becoming the babysitters at the Cub Scouts and Girl Scout meetings, those that drop their kids and run at baseball practice, and hearing by the lack of interest at our school board meetings, people don't care unless they are forced to. I have made it my own personal business to get involved in saving the arts. In whatever condition that these programs are in after your decision, I will do all that I can to create alternative outlets. We also need to send our village a message by caring what happens to our town and schools before it's too late. I'm already hearing about people shopping around looking for alternative places, be it religious or other private schools, that will give the students those things that we are threatening to cut. We can't do this because at this time, it's only going to do more harm than good. We can't allow this situation to get any worse before it gets better. I have hope and faith that this school board, and I see a few familiar faces whose children are fellow Munchkins in the high school musical. I know you understand. I know you get it. I'm asking you to do the right thing. I'm also asking the teachers who care about their places of employment and the little minds that they help mold into the leaders and stars of tomorrow to be able to look them in the eye when all is said and done and know that it is them who suffer the most from whatever decisions we make or benefit the most from the decisions that we make. Thank you for your time. Oh, lastly, High School Musical tickets on sale, Wizard of Oz this weekend. Friday, Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 2 p.m. You will witness firsthand what's exactly at stake.
Thank you. Scott Brown. I'm just reading them.
Could have shuffled it down a little farther. Anyway, good evening. My name is R. Scott Brown, proud parent of Austin, who's also here, a sixth grader currently enrolled at the junior high. My thanks to the Board of Education and Superintendent Carey for allowing us to speak this evening about the impact of the proposed cuts on the student population. Some of the points outlined may have been touched upon by others. If so, I appreciate your patience. Austin has been a direct beneficiary of art, music, and drama up to this point in his academic career. Music and art continue, drama perhaps. His teachers have been excellent. He has done well in school. He seems to be enjoying himself. Of course, I lost my place. A cut of any of these programs will have a direct effect on him and others. His experiences in these programs has had an enormous impact on where he is today, academically and socially. It doesn't matter whether your child is in volleyball, art club, or jazz band, no one wants to see that program cut. The cuts made last year, while significant, were made with the understanding that more would be made this year. Cuts made this year don't necessarily guarantee that we will not be here next year at the same time discussing the same things. At some time, there will be nothing left to cut or a district to cut anything from as we get absorbed by the finer institutions to our east or west. I don't like that idea. I, for one, doubt that that will happen. A small school provides big opportunities, affording students to try new things and be involved, instead of being lost in the shuffle at the cattle rustling acreages on either side of us. As a family, we chose to stay here because of these opportunities. Each year, they have eroded more and more. To cut sixth grade jazz band, almost the cheapest on the list, but well attended, when fifth grade band has huge numbers, is a disservice not only to the students, but the junior and senior high programs as well. A combo 6-8 band, loss of sectional instructors in the past or proposed for the future, hurts the whole program. Westmont Junior and Senior High continue to join the list as the only schools in DuPage County without certain programs. I am ashamed by this. Anyone who has been to the Fine Arts Festival knows the type of awesome programs we have, musically and artistically. Why should we eliminate these? Fine arts and electives are easy to target. The results of participating in these programs are hard to quantify. Immediately, yet studies show both long and short-term benefits. In math or science, the answers are either right or they're wrong. Sure, you can play a note or draw a wheel, but can you do it well enough to provide an interactive experience? How could I get lost? Anyway, funny, never had that problem with a calculus equation. And I'm not knocking math or science, believe me, they're both very important, but I think everyone can appreciate the difference. Of course, I lost my place again. I am sure there are engineers who can play the drums, they just need to have all their sticks oriented the same way. We must work together to look for innovative and creative ways to continue the fine programs we currently have and provide for the needs of the future. Our music programs are widely recognized as toward the top in this area, even when compared to larger, better schools. Referendums, bond refinancing, corporate donations, advertising, allowing volunteers to help, modest fee increases, stipend eliminations, instructor requirements, all should be considered. These have happened at other districts, and I'm sure that they're being explored here. The teachers here in 201 are wonderful. Some have seen many changes. Many spend their own cash to buy needed supplies or work that extra time to ensure quality in whatever they do. Thank you. If it means a small or no salary increase, a hike in funding insurance costs, doing a little more with less, please consider. Many here, including myself, have had this happen in our own personal lives. We must look long-term. A united community with a forward vision, willing to share the wealth or the pain, will benefit our students and help them to be the best they can be as they prepare for the journey called life. Let's give them all we can. Thank you for allowing me to voice my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Austin Brown?
Hi, my name is Austin Brown, currently in 6th grade at the junior high. My dad gave me this opportunity for writing a speech for this meeting. I'm currently in jazz band. So far, I've been in art, industrial arts, and computers. I would like to thank Mr. Landigan for industrial arts, Mrs. Frank for computers, and Ms. Rucker for art. Despite the very few tests or quizzes, I still have fun. In industrial arts, you learn to express creativity through wood and aluminum. You learn to work with different materials. So along with that, you learn shop safety. In computers, you learn keyboarding, which familiarizes you with the letters on the keyboard. On the computer, you learn what information you can and can't give out. I'm currently taking art. So far, it's really good. We learned about an artist named M.C. Escher and the pyramid of lizards he made. We've also made a landscape painting, and just today, we learned about Frank Lloyd Wright. I've been taking art classes since first grade at South School. Next quarter, I have music. Because I don't know the experience, I went to some friends who have. Music class is basically fun. You listen to a variety of music and learn to play the piano. I've been playing music since 4th grade and want to thank Mr. Harold, Mrs. Nemick, Miss Martin, Mr. Murphy, and Miss Casey, our new technique teacher, for the help. I'm currently in concert band and jazz band. We learn about famous jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. We took a trip to see the Chicago Jazz Ensemble this past Friday. It was very good. We also learn about the different accents in jazz, but there is a downfall, getting up early. But it's worth it. I'm a high honor student and feel that music and art have helped me with this. That's why I don't think we should cut these subjects.
Thank you, Austin. Nikki Damascus?
I feel like I'm off topic. Hi, my name is Nikki Damascus, and I have an 8th grader at the junior high and a 3rd grader here at Manning. And you know what? There's some momentum going, so excuse me for switching topics here. But as we are exploring opportunities to fund some of these programs that are so near and dear to all of us, what I was asking for today was some working knowledge about how a referendum would work. So if I understand things, I understand that we don't have numbers because you need a group of people to tell you what we think our proposed expenses would be. But then the question would lie, if I understand, and that's what I want you to clarify. So if we talked about a referendum for these particular programs or these particular cuts, is that separate from an additional referendum or other monies that I'm understanding that you can't commingle if we needed a facilities project, for example. So when you request a referendum, you have to state the purpose, right? So there's for these programs, and then perhaps maybe even in the short-term future, a facilities referendum as well. Is that right?
That's correct.
I'm finished. Thank you.
Right. That's correct in terms of when it comes to referendums and funding and so forth, you have various funds. A referendum for facilities would have to specify the dollar amount that the district was looking for, and then those monies could only be used for facilities in terms of building or additions. And then that's a bond and interest referendum. The other type of referendum is a tax rate increase, which is your operating funds, which what we're talking about in terms of our budget, we're looking at the operating funds, the education fund primarily, and so that would be a separate issue, a separate type of question, and then the dollars generated from that question could only be used for your operating funds. You couldn't use those monies for facilities or for modification of facilities. So those are two separate questions.
Bob Kretz, please.
Good evening, I'm Bob Kretz. I have a child at the junior high. I did not attend either one of the forums, so some of this is in response to hearsay, but from good sources. American society has rightfully decided that it will educate its children, all of its children. Every child is entitled to a fair and appropriate education. Every child is entitled to the hope that they will someday be a productive member of society. In the economic climate of the past few years, many companies have sold off less profitable interests to allow them to better concentrate on their core business. A school district's core business is academic achievement. I am all for a well-rounded education, but when we are cutting back, deciding not to fund summer school, and then spend time considering a new scoreboard, it seems we are drifting very far away from the focus of academic achievement. To question why we would spend money on ensuring special ed children receive an appropriate education, or to suggest that they in particular be targeted for a reduction in spending, is unbelievably selfish, immoral, simple-minded, and downright un-American. The days of just pushing these children off to the side are long gone. Einstein had a high-functioning form of autism known as Asperger's syndrome and was also believed to be dyslexic. Stephen Hawking, one of the world's greatest astronomical physicists, is confined to a wheelchair and uses a computer for speech. Alexander Graham Bell had a learning disability and didn't learn to read until the age of 12. Finally, extracurricular activities are just that, extra. They should be considered for their academic benefit to the students rather than their popularity. Thank you.
Thank you. James Barnett.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. We have a son, Max, who is a junior in the high school, and we've actually put 4 children through the system. We have a lot of good things to say about Westmont, and we've always talked about the people we know. We've always felt, I'm here actually to speak more on behalf probably of the Fine Arts program, but I want to say that everybody's got concerns in other areas as well, and they're all important too, so I don't want to diminish other programs, but I'm here kind of to do a little bit of talking for Fine Arts. I've always looked at it as a window through which the community sees the quality of the education people are getting here. And it's a big driving force, I think, in what attracts people to come into a community and send their kids to school. So, the topic of cutting more fine arts program, to me, sounds a lot like when you have your spleen or gallbladder removed. Everybody says, well, you can live without them, but, they perform vital functions. And people, from a health standpoint, suffer as the years go on, being without important parts. I don't want to forget that that's probably very true here, because I think the eye is on fine arts more than a lot of other things that we can do without some of this stuff. I think it's very important, and particularly because of the way the community sees it. And we had one of the band parent meetings, there was a fact sheet that went around, and just a few things that I thought were key about it are, fine arts in this No Child Left Behind Act, they're considered core academic subjects, the music and the visual arts, meaning these are important and necessary things to have in a school. They're required by many universities. If children want to apply for universities, they want some electives to be on their course offerings in the high school level. We looked at a lot of statistics here as far as the quality of education the kids are getting in fine arts here. From when you look at it, regardless of the regardless of the size of the school, all the percentages are quite high of student involvement in these programs, which I think speaks highly for, again, the quality they're receiving here. And I keep going back. I hate to see more things getting cut from that. There was a lot of things going on in the school here. All state music programs, IMEA, a lot of involvement outside of the school. Their interaction, statewide competitions and such, where they've been really very successful. And every time I've come to a show, I say, for the size of the school, these guys sound really good. I mean, the symphony and everything, musically speaking, all the performing arts, amazingly good for the size of the school. I grew up in Chicago. The schools were 4 or 5 times, just like Downers, North and South. They're huge compared to us, but we really, really perform well. Anyway, we've lived in a culture, again, I'm here just probably to talk more for the kids than teachers, but on the children's behalf too. We've lived in a culture, I believe, and these are only my opinions, of throwing money at problems. The money is really gone. We're living in a globally competitive market, and pulling the plug on things doesn't help either. It doesn't get to the core. It's beyond my expertise to really propose how to tell a group of people how a difficult job is going to be easy. It's not. But as an observer of what's going on here, we have private sector accepting pay cuts, working harder. I'm self-employed, my wife's self-employed. People are taking pay cuts, working harder, losing benefits, and I think it's time to take a look, as is being bandied about quite a bit, at the organization of the whole school system itself. It's time for people who are in authority, who have the ability to address these issues, to take a look at things like compensation and benefits, because the money's just not there anymore. So I hope the tide is turning a little bit in terms of how the teachers are being paid. It's a huge part of the budget, and it's happening all across the board. Things have changed in this country. I think people have to start to realize that. So I went on Google, and in just a couple of minutes, I queued in successful public school teacher pay reform. And, here comes all these things. This is not a struggle unique to us. So I hope there can be a growing body of information for people to start looking at, where somebody can get a task force together and start to look at how we're going to reform the way we pay the teachers too. I think they have to be part of this as well. They can't just have us all come in here and say, please don't cut the budget. I mean, it's got to get cut. I understand you guys have a task here, but I'd like to try to do something intelligent to make it work for everybody. And I think that's about it. My 5 minutes up. Oh, don't forget to buy tickets for the play. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Hancock?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Hancock. My wife is actually on the school board. And I just want to say this is probably the toughest job what these 7 volunteers have. They spend a lot of time and effort. If my wife knew and I knew that she had to do all the extra hours to fulfill this duty, which she gladly decided to do, I would told her not to do this job. So it's a very tough job. It's unrewarding. The community always seems like they're against them. I just want to say I applaud you, and I wish you the best. But I do have a few concerns as a father myself. So with that, my son's 8 years old. He goes to Manning. I'm also the Cub Master. I don't know if I said that already. Did I say that already?
He goes to Miller.
Miller. I'm off. I'm sorry. I'm also the Cub Master of Westmont. So one of my issues is these budget reforms. So I think these budget meetings that you had were excellent. I just feel they were a little late. We should address these issues last year, and also with the teacher contract coming up, and I think there's a vote tonight. I think that should have been out last year also and addressed to the public to find out what we want to do with the contract. I know a lot of people are in the dark, and that's a concern. I think that should be more open to the people on where at least come out to the people and say, what do you want to do with the contract? You want to increase it? Their salaries, we're obviously in deficit. That discussion was never had with the public, and I think it should have been addressed. So The stipends. I just recently found out about the stipends, and it really, that's actually the reason why I'm here tonight. So the stipends are, what I found out is over $500,000 a year. Now some of these stipends are for recess, for lunch. Now I don't want to take anything away from the teachers. I think you guys do a great job, right? But to pay you extra for watching my kid at lunchtime or recess, I think that's a travesty. I don't even understand why it's even in the contract. You know, I'm a plumbing contractor myself. Well, I'm going to charge people to stand by my truck and pull fittings out, you know, or drive down the street to get, you know, a soda pop. You know, I'm not going to charge people for that. So I don't even understand that. Bus duty was one of the things, to watch our kids get on the bus. Now we're talking about a 7 to 8 hour day. I work 12 hours a day on average. So I think there's I don't know what we got to do as a school board or as a budget situation, but $500,000 towards some of these. Now some of these are legit things like extra hours for coaching, for the theater group. You know, I agree they should get paid extra because it's extra hours for the day. So, so that's one of the issues I have. So everyone has to give with these budget cuts, not just these programs you're thinking about cutting. The teachers really should think about doing something for the public. We've done a great thing for you over the years. I think we've always stood behind you. I hate to say that, you know, at this time that, you know, it's a terrible thing. I'm a plumbing contractor. There's 5,000 union plumbers in Chicago and out of 130. 4,400 of them are laid off. The salary structure for plumbers is once you become, after 5 years, you max out. Now every 3 years, like the teachers, there's, you know, the contract goes up. You might get a few percentages on a few dollars on your salary, but you max out. There's no steps. Now, if I become an inspector for the state, I don't get extra money for that as a union plumber. So I think there's a the system's broke in a sense. We can't sustain this. So that's my concern. That's why I'm here. I'm sorry for bumbling around. But our kids come first for me. When I got in the Cub Scouts a few years ago, we had 12 kids. We have 50 kids now. All volunteers. We start with 4 leaders that were dedicated. We have 12 now. They're all volunteers. There's more people stepping up to helping kids to be successful, and we're out there. The community in Westmont is a great community. We as people in this community, obviously we're here today thinking about, you know, we want to make a difference. Now it's time to make a difference. We have to stand together to make sure these things get done. So, also I just want to say thank you for this time. I appreciate it. I hope you good luck in the future. And I just want to invite everybody, I'll just recap this off. The Pinewood Derby this weekend is Saturday, the 26th at the Westmont Park District, so please come and join us. And we're trying to raise money for the kids for summer camp. And thank you for this time.
Are there any other public comments at this time?
We'll do the consent agenda and we'll do letters.
The next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any comments on that at this time?
I just have a question. I mean, we can...
You want to do that now?
Do we ask questions beforehand, before we approve it?
Right, you would ask questions before you approve it.
On the calendar, I was just wondering, with the calendar that's being recommended, are we going to have finals at the high school before break?
That would be the design of the high school, is to have finals before break.
Okay.
And just for clarification, there was a copy of the calendar at your place, and that's only because the actual dates were marked correctly for the Christmas break or the winter break, but where it was noted when classes resumed, it said the 4th and it should be the 9th. So that what you have at your place is the corrected version then.
Thank you.
And then once this is approved, will this go online?
Right, then we'll post
community
it
to see?
online, yes.
Okay, any other comments on the consent agenda? Then I move approval of the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, approval of 2011-2012 school calendar. 2, approval of OptiMan fiber contract. 3, approval of PTAB proceedings intervention. 4, approval of student tours. And 5, ratification of regular payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And if we could have a roll call, please?
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Towns?
Yes.
Okay, we had talked about this before the meeting, but because we have our librarians here that are going to give us a report, if you would like to come on up here and do your presentation now.
I think so. It seems like it, and here it comes. Always takes longer than you want. Good evening. My name is Karen Johnson, and I am the media specialist here at Manning Elementary School. I'm here tonight with my colleagues to give you some images and some words about what's been happening here within our libraries within Community Unit School District 201. We are here as part of our application for the school district library grant through the state of Illinois. We have received this grant since fiscal year 1995, and we are still waiting the grant for this year, but we anticipate that we will receive the grant again and that the monies will be used to continue to build our collections at our respective schools. I'm here not only as myself, but also with my colleagues throughout the district. Michelle Therese, our media specialist at Westmont High School, and Amy Jordan, our media specialist at Westmont Junior High School, and Rebecca Johnston, the media specialist at Miller. And also Nancy Battaglia, who is our technology coordinator and runs our Fearless group. Each and every day, we are prepared to meet the needs of 1,655 students. We're there to provide print and technology resources to help the students and the staff meet their day. Last year, we were able to digitize each of our collections, and we are proud to continue to provide availability to print and online resources 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to our district families and students. Not only our print resources are available, but also online databases. We have had many professional roles throughout this past year, and we will continue, and we will take a look at our roles and our goals for the future. We are supporters. We support teachers and students, and most recently this year, we have been asked to help support teachers through the Differentiated Learning Experience Project, which was undertaken by the district this year with Mr. Ryan Goebel. We help provide teachers with materials to provide differentiated strategies, as well as help them formulate a plan. We are collaborators. We collaborate and continue to collaborate with our content area and classroom teachers to ensure that lessons are fully integrated into content areas, and many of those classes are co-taught, with instruction happening in the classroom as well as within the library. We are researchers. One of our first and foremost responsibilities is to help students become effective users of information. We guide students through the research process. And because we have media specialists at all levels, our skills will build from one grade level to the next. At the elementary level, students are taught to locate, evaluate, and cite resources. And they take those skills and build on them at the junior high, where those skills are reviewed, location, access, and evaluation, but then they are asked to begin to apply their research to real-world situations. And then finally moving to the high school program, where we're really focusing on college readiness skills. The students there are asked to take their information and synthesize it. Critical thinking skills are enforced, and problem solving is highlighted to prepare for higher education. We are designated technology facilitators for the building. We are in charge of budgeting for all technology needs for the entire school, and we're responsible for ordering supplies such as toner or bulbs or anything to make sure that the teachers can complete their day with an effective lesson for students. We are the first line of defense for any technological issues. We troubleshoot any questions that come up with teachers or students, and most of the time we are able to solve issues without heading to the technology department. We are readers. We are there to foster a love of reading. The district has a large investment in our extensive library collections, and our collections support the curriculum. As librarians, we continue to weed, sort, build those collections to meet the continuing changing curricular needs of our students. Each of us holds at least one book club, if not more, at our buildings. We service the needs of students who are looking to reading and sharing their opinions. And Readers Advisory is held at Westmont High School as well. We are teachers. We are teachers not only for our students on a daily basis, but we are teachers for our colleagues. Professional development classes for teachers are offered during and after school hours. Instruction this year alone has been provided for blogging, wikis, Google Apps, Centios, Smartboard, Excel, United Streaming, Movie Maker, and Google Lit Trips. The topics are suggested and designed to build curriculum and meet specific classroom needs. We are professionals. We participate in conferences and workshops concerning innovative technologies and best practices while bringing them back here to District 201. This week, we'll have the opportunity to attend ICE, which is the Illinois Computer Educator Conference. In the past, we've attended ISLAMA, which is the Illinois School Library Media Association, and also the Information Literacy Summit. We build relationships. We build relationships not only with our students and with our colleagues, but we also build relationships within the community. At Manning, we have many businesses within the area that come in and have come in year after year to talk to our second grade students about how they created their business or what they do, so students can begin to explore career opportunities. At Manning and Miller, Salt Creek Ballet has developed a relationship and helping students by sharing a story and showing them how music and movement and dance can increase their comprehension and their love of reading. Westmont Junior High School and High School meet regularly with Westmont Public Library to support our curriculum. Textbooks are available so students can complete homework while at the public library. And author visits have been a part of every school so we can share the joy of reading and writing, drawing with all of our students as they learn to become lifelong learners. And as with any good program, we can't rest on what we've accomplished so far. We have a long ways to go, and we look forward to the challenges that the future holds. We pledge and continue to build a Library Media Center program that's integrated, collaborative, which connects print, electronic, and technology resources with core curricular objectives to meet the diverse learning needs and styles of our student population. We support a scholarly environment that emphasizes information literacy skills, critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration, all skills necessary to be successful in future. We pledge to provide an inviting, stimulating space where all students feel welcome including new areas like the Westmont High School's Learning Lounge and private quiet reading areas within our elementary buildings. And we hope that a certified librarian will remain in every school because it has shown consistently through Keith Curry Lance's study all over the country that there's one clear and consistent finding: the students who are the most successful come from schools with a full-time library media specialist. Thank you for your time. We enjoy working with your students, your children, in making a difference with them every day. So thank you for the opportunity to share our joy of what we do.
Thank you, Karen. Karen, how much is the grant that we applied for this year?
It is a per capita grant, so it's so many cents per student at each school. And I believe the range is about 37 cents per child. So it ends up that it usually is a nice order of books for us. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you got it.
Need your height.
Well, guys. Did you get it? Go around the front. I went around the front.
I do get paid for
Thank you very much for that presentation. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the WTA negotiated agreement.
Hey, Nancy, somebody get the lights as well?
Thanks, Dan. Is there any discussion on this?
I'll go first, because I actually wrote something. I felt like I wanted to share some thoughts. Obviously, we have a contract in front of us to vote on tonight as a board. And I was part of the team that spent the time and the effort to negotiate the contract. So, with that said as introduction, our school district's broadest interest is in providing our children with the best possible education and educational experience within an economically viable framework for our community. To meet those goals, we will need fully engaged and enrolled teachers of the highest quality. To get fully engaged and enrolled teachers committed to excellence for our children, we must treat them as full and equal partners in our efforts and in our community. And the contract we craft with them should reflect that goal. Likewise, the community must see from its teachers the same commitment to going forward viability of both our programs and our economics. It's my belief that the contract that we have in front of us reflects each of those objectives. The contract we're about to vote on represents positive movement toward greater collaboration and shared responsibilities in things as little as calendar planning and as substantive as curriculum development and the design of the district's insurance plan. In return for that greater collaboration, the WTA has agreed to shoulder greater economic responsibility for those matters where they now have more direct input, particularly in the area of insurance. In addition, in this contract, the WTA has acknowledged the economic challenges the district is facing and is participating directly in addressing those challenges. For this and the next school year, because it is a 2-year agreement, the WTA has agreed to no changes in their base salary schedules, and for this year, they have agreed to forego any step movement within them. They have also agreed to no changes in stipend rates for the full contract period. They have not demanded promises that the district cannot keep with respect to job assurances, and in fact, have contributed to and participated in those discussions around the fundamental notion of what is best for our kids. It is not lost on me that there are people in the community who will say the teachers did not sacrifice enough. Nor is it lost on me that there are teachers who will say they sacrificed too much. The members of the community who think the teachers didn't sacrifice enough, I think it necessary to point out that I believe it's naive to think solving the district's economic issues can be accomplished in a single step or borne by a single group or a single person. We will and should all participate in solving those problems and in facing those issues, just as we all participated in the journey that got us to this point. To the teachers who hear parts of the community that may be disenchanted with them, whether as a matter of economics or academics, your active participation in dealing with these issues is not lost on me, nor on many others in the community. And I thank you for your continued dedication to your profession, to our district, and to our kids. This contract wasn't easy for anyone. Times we live in are truly historic in nature, both locally and nationally, economically and educationally. I am honored to be able to work with a group of people, both in our own administration and our teachers, who are committed to excellence at every level, even in the face of those challenges. It is my firm belief that this contract embodies those commitments. For our teachers, our district, and our community. As near as I can tell, it's likely that one of the outcomes of this contract, along with our ongoing conversations about how to more efficiently staff our buildings and our extracurricular offerings to reflect changes in student enrollment and interests, is that we will be able to maintain a positive low point fund balance until at least 2015. Meaning we won't be forced, like so many other districts around us dealing with similar issues, to borrow money for at least that time period. During that time, we will have an opportunity as a district and as a community to have a much fuller conversation about our future as a district, both in terms of academic offerings and economics. With that said, I'd like to thank the WTA and its entire team, as well as Kevin Carey, Steve Carr, Kim Anderson, Terry Hodges, and Diane Thomas for their insights and creativity and commitment and the many hours of quality time that we got to spend together in this process. This was hard, and there are no easy answers. And it's hard to say it this way, but I think it's fair to say it this way. There were no winners. It's not supposed to be winners because we are all in the boat, and we all have rows, and we all have oars, and we all have buckets, and all of us are working. And it's an ongoing conversation that will continue well into this year and next. So, and it will incorporate other words. You know, we've heard, that word referendum tonight. There'll be a conversation about those. Whether or not it gets asked is up to a process that ultimately figures out what that means. But there will be definite conversations going forward about all that stuff. So, those were my thoughts.
Anyone else?
Okay. So I didn't type out a nice prepared statement, but I just want to make the comment that there was a lot of time and a lot of effort put into this. I'm thankful this round that I did not have to be one of the people sitting at the table for months and months and months and months while this process went on. That said, I do think that there were a lot of positive accomplishments with the contract that we're potentially looking at related to long-term expenses, costs and things that the WTA has agreed to share with the district, and that's very, very important to all of us on a long-term basis. My concern continues to be more on a short-term basis. Dan mentioned referendum, as did some of our speakers this evening. As we march towards that in the very near future, I would like to see all of the people. The administration has already taken no raise of any kind, and a lot of other people in the district that are not part of a collective bargaining unit have really seen some very lean times in the last year, and I am looking for the teachers to share in that, at least in the short term, while we work on the referendum and work on other ways to increase revenue and work on ways to deal with our expense issues that don't go after our extracurriculars. It was interesting for me this evening to hear people talk a lot about the arts. As an arts person myself, I'm biased, but I will say that my experience as a board member would be from sports all the way across the board. There isn't a particular thing in arts that's going on that's better or worse or contributes more to a child than in sports, or vice versa. So I think when we talk about extracurriculars and how to maintain these programs, as a community, we have an obligation to look at it holistically, not just try to save one program or one teacher or one effort. We really need to look at extracurriculars across the board and do everything we can with the teachers and our other collective bargaining units on board.
Anyone else?
I just want to say that after hearing the community speak, I feel very strongly that the fine arts definitely are very integral. There's been a lot of research that shows over and over again that the fine arts definitely plays a very important role in students' education. There's a connection between those that are in fine arts, that they perform better academically. And so I think that everything that we can do to try to keep the fine arts, as many fine arts programs intact, that we need to do that. Also, after hearing the community speak tonight, I am a little bit disappointed in the way that this contract played out. And I just want to express that to the community.
Nothing different to add at this time.
I would just like to make a couple comments. I know this was a lot of work from a lot of people. There was a lot of give and take. And to reiterate something that Dan said, there will be people that will say that there wasn't enough done, and then there'll be people that say there was too much that was done. And in this day and age of where we live and what is happening, I don't know that some of the questions that have come up is that we should restructure everything and change everything. And I just, from where I sit, I don't know that that can happen in District 201 in Westmont, Illinois. And there's a lot of creative discussions out there. Obviously, there's discussions going on in Wisconsin right now about collective bargaining in its entirety to try to make maybe it more fair. Certain people obviously are weighing in strong on either sides on that. But as of right now, what we have in front of us, the laws that we work under school code. There's a lot involved here. We rely on our administrators, our attorneys, and the knowledge of the people at the table to really do this the right way. So there have been some comments that it could be done differently, and I just would like to say that at this point in time, there really isn't another way to do it. It's not as though we could take a vote as you would, say, for a referendum. But I think everyone that participated in this was working very hard to do what is in the best interest of everybody. Again, there'll be comments on both sides. It wasn't enough. It was too much. So that being said, I think that the agreement that in front of us is, I think, hard fought, hard won, no winners, no losers. And I think as a district, we value our teachers, and I can't believe that there's a teacher that doesn't value the students and the families. So.
I guess not having anything scripted, I'm a little hesitant to say too much, but I will say this, it's very in vogue these days to be down on public employees in general, and I think, you know, it's a very difficult position to be in a service-related field, whether it be education or elsewhere in government, and have to work real closely with people, oftentimes on kind of some very intimate levels. And you know, they face a lot of challenges that I don't think we really understand all the way through either. And so I am pleased with the outcome of this negotiation round overall. And you know, the way I look at it, budget cutting really started in earnest when the board closed South School. And there was a round of negotiations at that point that gave approximately, I'm not off the top of my head, about 4%, 5 to 4% raises over the last contract. And a lot of people in the community did look at that and say, you know, we've started budget cutting seriously by closing a school, and yet this is the kind of contract that came out, and I know there was a lot of unhappy residents about that. I think this round of negotiations really stands in contrast to that, and I'm happy that it turned out the way that it did. So overall, I'm pleased. We have a lot of hardworking teachers, and I think it's difficult to thank them enough, and you know, it's difficult to be critical of them as well too. So.
Well, I just want to say that I'm not critical of the job that they do. I absolutely am not. I just feel for the community members that have expressed the fact that, you know, that they are experiencing difficult financial times, and they're just expressing that they would hope that, you know, that we would all be part of the solution to try to solve the budget crisis that the district is facing. So I just want to make sure that the teachers understand that.
Maria, I just want to make one more comment. I also think that as we go forward as a community, it's going to be extremely important that we get away from an us and them mentality. There are a lot of people that don't know that I'm on the board, being a very new member, and will make comments to me about, well, you know, the board did this, or the teachers did that, and as I listen to those comments, I can't help being frustrated and a little bit inspired to try to make a difference, to try to bring the depth and breadth of that gulf to a much smaller place all the way around, because it's not us and them, it's not us and you, it's all of us together, same boat, same kids, same teachers, same buildings, same referendum, same everything that's been mentioned tonight. We have to get away from the it's a fight at the negotiating table and it's the board that did this or didn't do that. Those things have to go away for us to be successful. It's critical. We're reaching an absolutely critical point in that.
You know, I'll piggyback on that too, with other comments that are being made too, because I think that's absolutely critical as we go forward, because as one thing that was mentioned at the forum is that, you know, what we're talking about here is money, but it's not money, it's personal. It affects every single one of us. All of these programs, the teacher contract, all the contracts, everything that's in front of us affects our students, because we are a service organization. And we have to take that into account too when we talk about fine arts, sports, academics, everything. It has to all be on the plate. I don't think there's anybody sitting here or anywhere that feels that their program should be saved on the back of another program or vice versa. So I think any conversations we have, I would like to say thank you very much to the community for voicing your concerns, and again, thank you for everyone who participated in what we have right in front of us right now, because once we start bridging those gaps is when we can all stop pointing fingers and saying, you have to do this and you have to do that. Instead, what are we all going to do together? And once we all understand what, you know, parameters we're under, where we can be creative and all of that, that's when I think we can be the community that we are and that we're all proud of. So
I just want to add that I think we all would agree it's difficult on both sides. This side of the table making that final decision, it's really hard, as well as on your side watching us, watching the community go through this. And I think we have a lot of work ahead of us to keep educating and keep working at finding the best solution.
Okay. Then, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the tentative agreement between Community Unit School District 201 and the Westmont Teachers Association for school years 2010 through 11 and through 2011 through 12, contingent upon final review of all appendices, salary schedules, and memos of understanding.
So moved.
Second.
If we can have a roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
No.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
No.
Okay, then motion is carried. Okay, next item is the superintendent's report.
Let me first, with regards to the WTA agreement, that Grant Starr, who is the WTA president, and myself, we will be drafting together a press release, and we'll get that posted on the website that will share some of the detail that Dan has shared this evening, and we'll provide it to the newspapers as well. So you can look for that on our website sometime probably late tomorrow afternoon. The other thing I'll share with you about the agreement is, again, it is a historical agreement for the Westmont 201 School District, and then also, I think, in education in general. And as Dan pointed out, depending upon where you're at on this issue, it's not enough, and for some people, it's too much. And so, unfortunately, it's one of those things where I don't think anybody really truly walks away happy, but I think everybody feels that they put forth the best effort, and we work to, try to collaborate on an agreement. And I think that's the most we can hope for, and I think that starts for future conversations. We have a starting point from where to work from. With regards to the budget reduction planning, to kind of bring the board up to speed and everybody here, which, again, I'd like to also thank everybody for coming out this evening and all of your comments this evening, because, they do influence the decision-making, and definitely, even though the public comment, there isn't really an opportunity for a give and take between the Board of Education and the community members, but at the same time, I can assure you that everybody hears what everybody is sharing and everybody is feeling. With that in mind, just a couple things. We've had 2 forums, and for those of you who have not attended those forums, I can share with you that the tone of those meetings, I think, has been overall very positive. I mean, this is a very emotional issue for everybody. Everyone is invested in their child's education and in our school district, and so it is very emotional. But at the same time, I think everybody has conducted themselves very appropriately, and the comments are very similar to what the board is hearing this evening in terms of asking if there's opportunities for some creative problem solving, if there's an opportunity to look at other areas, and if we can preserve as much of our co-curricular program as we can. And again, that influences our decision making, our thinking, and I can bring you up to date on where we're at on those. One of our speakers pointed out that so often the focus is on what we are looking to cut versus still what's going to be available in the district. And again, not in the sense of being argumentative, but just to quickly highlight some of the things for you. And these are posted on our website as well, and they were shared at the second forum meeting. And I can also share with you as well that based upon conversation this evening, comments from the community, that I have offered, and tentatively I've set up March 3rd as another opportunity to do a community forum to provide any additional information we have at that time, some of our thinking, and again, solicit any input, or even if, I think all of us are thinking what can we do differently, or some creative ways that we can address the issue. And if anybody can bring those ideas forward on March 3rd as well, that will help with our decision making. But when we look at our elementary level, and these are things that will still be in place. The elementary band is still in place. And again, it was pointed out that there is some difference in clubs that are offered at 2 of our elementary buildings, and it is something that we can review as a district. But we have the Garden Club, Drug Prevention Club, Student Council, book clubs, basketball, safety patrol, snow flurry. Those are all clubs that we have at our elementary buildings. Activity-wise, at the junior high, granted 1 level of jazz band, but those students would have an opportunity to still participate in jazz band, marching band, cheerleading, chess team, snowflake, early act, the science club, outdoor ed, musical and choral, hearing impaired drama, yearbook, homework lab, and then the vocal performances. When you get into high school activities.
Can we just to interrupt for just 1 second? So, and for folks who have looked at the list, we're focused primarily on priority 1 budget cuts, not going into priority 2 on that list. So at the junior high, I want to focus for a moment because so many of the comments were on the fine arts. The 2 items in priority 1 that are activities related in the fine arts at the junior high are 6th grade jazz and 6th grade spirit. There would still continue to be, as Kevin points out, a 6th grade band, as well as all of the marching band, and then not for 6th grade, but jazz band would continue primarily as effectively a varsity, junior high kind of event. In addition, none of the musical or choral activities have been touched or impacted in any way. There's also an activity for the hearing impaired, including in terms of hearing impaired drama. And all of the athletic activities at the junior high have been preserved as well. So I think it's important just again to talk about what have we preserved, not just what we've cut.
Then as well as the high school in terms of activities, jazz band, marching band, SAD, French Club, Ecology Club, Geography Club, Spanish Club, the Business Partners Association Club, Best Buddies, Snowball, Flags, Scholastic Bowl, junior class and senior class sponsors, National Honor Society, Youth and Government, Yearbook, Math League, Scholastic Bowl, Rotary, Student Council, the Spring Musical, and there's a job coaching organization. And then again, at the junior high, we may be looking at some levels of sports, but at the same time, there's still opportunities in those sports for students to participate, and the same thing for high school athletics as well. They'll still have the same athletic opportunities. And so overall, I think, again, we are, obviously, what is being recommended does have an impact, and I won't tell you otherwise. If it's important to your child, then obviously it's having an impact. One of the questions that was brought up at the forum, what about asking teachers if they, would take a look at the stipend structure? That was a comment today as well. Can we look at the stipends? And, it's kind of an interesting dynamic when we do take a look at education and we take a look at teachers. Ourselves, when we think of ourselves in terms of our families, at the end of our workday, there's laundry to do and grocery shopping and food preparation and helping students with homework and volunteering to coach our own students and volunteering our abilities with other organizations. And our teachers, they have those same responsibilities at the end of the day. They have families that they, have to prepare food for and help with homework and volunteer to coach their children's sports and do all those things as well. And so when they take on that responsibility, sure, there's a stipend involved, but I guarantee you, being a former coach, you never want to sit down and calculate the number of hours you put into that and then actually how much you're making. And in some cases, because you augment your program and pay out of your own pocket for various things, sometimes it's a net loss. I know my wife always was looking for me to stop coaching because it cost us more money than I made as a coach, and it's just not that everybody approaches that way, but many of our teachers do. And so I do feel that I do have to talk about, in the reference to a 7-hour day, very few of our teachers walk out of our buildings at the end of that 7-hour day. And I can tell you, I've been in our buildings very early in the morning for meetings, and there is always at least one teacher who's beat me there, who's already started their day. I've left our buildings at all hours of the evening at various buildings because of meetings and different activities, and there are still teachers who are there who are still working on lesson plans and grading papers and doing those things to meet the needs of our students. And so I think it's easy for us to take a step back and say, let's ask the teachers to take less. But I think we do have to take a look at it realistically as well. That question has been asked of our WTA, though. I can assure you that last week I met with Grant Starr, the WTA president, and I mentioned that was a request of some of the parents in the forum the WTA would be willing to look at the stipend structure. I have another meeting this Friday with Grant to talk about some of the co-curriculars and hopefully to get some feedback from Grant with regards to that. And so there are no promises, but the question was asked of the Board of Education Administration if that at least could be broached, and that subject has been broached. So, you know, we can only see where that goes. In terms of kind of updating the board, of the $725,700, if you actually look at the amount of money from the co-curricular programs we're talking about, that doesn't amount to much, probably about $50,000 of that amount. Right now, Kim Anderson, our business manager, is looking at a possible fee structure for activities to see if there's a way to generate some revenue to offset that cost. And so if the desire of the board would be to take a look, you know, kind of give a long-term look in terms of those co-curriculars, there would be that opportunity. It really doesn't change that 2015 that Dan referenced in terms of projecting out how long our fund balances would carry us. The other thing that would also forward, and this was referenced in terms of a referendum, you know, there would be that opportunity to ask the community if they would be willing to entertain a tax rate increase, which, you know, obviously that would help to augment the co-curricular program. The one thing I'll share, though, with the people who are here and so many people who spoke so well about the importance of our co-curricular program, it's one thing to say that you really support the co-curricular program. To truly show your support, though, when that referendum question is asked, you need to get to the polls and you need to vote yes for it, because ultimately that's the long-term support for those programs. You know, anything that we're talking about in terms of budget reduction is a Band-Aid. It helps us push out, you know, that bottom line, that end year when we have to start borrowing money. But in terms of that long-term fix, it's one or two things: significantly cutting expenditures, which we're all starting to feel the pain, and that's why you're here this evening, or you have to generate more revenue through a tax rate increase. And so ultimately, you know, it'd be great that, and I'm pretty confident that down the road the board is going to start having those conversations about that referendum question and what the question should be and what that rate should be. We're going to need, you know, the people in this room to run with that cause and to, you know, help us educate our community the importance of everything that we do as a school district, and that's how we make our school district unique. And so we're going to need that commitment, that support at that time as well. And so hopefully we'll have that. But in terms of the co-curricular program, again, you know, that's one of those things we're looking at creatively. If we can raise some additional revenue for that, we've got the conversation with the WTA. In terms of our timeline, the March 8th, again, that's driven more by a personnel issue. And so, you know, and in closed session today, we'll talk a little bit about the staffing, as it what it means for our teachers, and then you know, moving forward on the 8th, the co-curricular piece, though, we can, you know, either table that or postpone that until we have an opportunity to look at a fee structure, gather some more input, see if there's other creative ways we can take a look at that. And yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, was there much discussion during the budget forums about the grade level centers?
There was some discussion in terms of some people would like the concept. Other people would like the opportunity to have that opportunity to be further educated on it, to have more of a thorough process before making a change of that nature, and then also possibly, again, see what occurs with a referendum versus making that decision at this time.
Okay, so the likelihood of moving toward that for next school year would be not likely?
Not likely.
Okay.
Kevin, can I ask, again, where we sit, sometimes our own personal opinions don't matter. What we have to do is listen to our community and see what our community is asking us to do. So if I listen to everything I've heard since I've been on the board, we value our co-curriculars, we value our sports, we value our art. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't take that into consideration. I personally also value those things. So if it's possible, those amounts that are being brought to the board from where I sit on priority number 1, they total about $48,000. One of the things our community has spoken out on is that we do need to perhaps go for a referendum. We need to at least ask that question. So it is very important. It does set us apart. We have some of the best programs in DuPage County, part of the reason why we live here. So could we ask, again, you were saying that Kim's going to look at structures and stuff. Is it possible to take that out of the mix entirely right now, table that, and talk about that, which then would get us to, $680,000 for discussion in the near future, and then see where we can go out to if it gets us to 2015. Having said that, all of this is stuff we want to keep. We don't want to lose any of our programs, because even if it affects 5 students, it's very important to those 5 students. So I guess I would ask that. We've heard from our community. We want to respond to that. So if that is something that we could look into in terms of, I don't know, a survey, if people would pay more money, if we can take this to a referendum question, where we can go with this to not lose these pieces of that our community want us to preserve.
Right, and that's, once Kim's able to come up with a fee structure, we can see what the board thinks of it and see what the community thinks of it. And, so again, in terms of the March 8th deadline, the personnel piece is what probably is most pressing for us. And then some of the other pieces, we do have a little bit more time to explore some options. Or again, it's a possibility it could be tabled pending, asking the community the referendum question before looking at some of those areas.
Could I ask something to add to the, I know you, Kim, about the revenues piece. Can we also look at, because we increased revenues last year, and I guess I'm curious as to how much of that we actually grew in revenue versus where we're going, to kind of give us a good idea as to whether or not, what kind of increase is valid, if it's really working to our benefit or not.
Right, and Kim is working on that?
Just
working on those numbers.
Yeah, just quickly, the last time I looked at it, we had budgeted $12,000 for participation fee revenue over the last several years. This year we've collected about $23,000. So we are seeing obviously an increase because of the increased cost and because we aren't allowing fee waivers for the participation. And one of the things too that we're working on, and we'll see some changes in the way that we budget and account for things, is setting up revenue account codes for each activity, so that then we'll have, rather than having to drill back down into the detail, we'll be able to code that revenue by account. So I can tell you exactly what revenue we collected for girls basketball or boys basketball and at which school and things like that. So you have a much more detailed working budget. And we'll have some, better idea there.
But I think that we've substantially increased the fees the last couple years. I would really like to try to not do that this year, if at all possible, because, our community has experienced layoffs, furloughs, wage freezes. The last thing they need is to now have to pay more money for fees.
Well, and that's always the trade-off, is that are the fees cost prohibitive, so that when you're looking at making some of these cuts, some of these we're looking at, is there some way, is there a threshold for when we determine whether we offer something or not? Just like if you were in a business and you were going to offer a product or service or a class, you look at it, I need a certain number of people enrolled to be able to hold that class, to be able to cover my fixed cost, and then a certain number above and beyond that if I want to generate any type of profit or whatever. So if we apply those same philosophy to the things that we're doing, we have looked at some of those where there is very minimal participation, and looking at that, is that an area where we can potentially make cuts based on participation levels, or what we want to do. So one of the things that we have to look at too when we're looking at activity fee structures or athletic fee structures, are we making those cost prohibitive? You know, will we garner more support and more kids participating with or without the fees, and what level, where's that striking point? So we have to be careful when we're setting our fees to make sure that while we were, hoping we had, 20 kids participate, well, now we increased fees, we only have 12 kids. So now it's actually costing us more per pupil than it did when our fee structure was lower. So, we can't always predict what that participation level is going to look like, but we do have to be cognizant of that.
I guess...
Saying in your collection of information that piece will also be part of that? Whether or not that we've got a decrease in student participation, or is it just based on revenue?
Well, I won't know if we have a decrease in participation until after we implement those new fees and see what happens next year. So if we decide to do activity fees for clubs, we won't know that impact until next year. So we have to kind of anticipate what we think it might be.
And the other comment that I would kind of like to see if we can do something about is the fact that the Miller School mentioned the inequity in their clubs as compared to Manning, and not necessarily that they would, have to establish their own clubs, but that they would have access to the clubs at Manning if there's a way to accomplish that. I would like to see if that can be achieved.
Yeah, Kathy, that's something we can definitely look into and bring back a recommendation to the board.
Okay, thank you.
In looking at the fee structure, then right now we have, like you said, around $50,000 in reduction for extracurricular. If we look at the fee structure, would the goal be to get that $50,000 in reduction through increased fees? And I guess I'm kind of asking this of everybody that's, so that we still are at our target amount here of $725 rather than just, keeping everything. One thing that bothers me about this whole process is there just seems to be a level of fairness that isn't quite there to my liking, and I know it's probably so impossible to get there, but it's like all students and all parents in the district, they pay tax dollars that support these programs, and if you took the whole pie and divided it up among all the students, they should have a certain dollar amount. That is, this is my dollar amount for my extracurriculars. But it doesn't work out that way in practice. It works out that some kids get this kid's and this kid's and this kid's and this kid's and this kid's money, and this kid just wants to be in a club, and he or she can't do it. So I'd like to find a way that we could balance this, and I just don't know how to do it. So if anyone has a good idea out there, I'd love to hear that, because it just seems like there are. And we heard from a couple parents at the forums who said, but my kid just really likes this thing, and it's on the chopping block, And then I do think as parents, we have to look at our own personal budgets and how we spend money. I mean, jazz band's on the list. It's $600 or something. How many kids are in 6th grade jazz band? And if there's 10 kids and you divide it $60 a year, it's a total bargain. And we'll go and drop money for our kids to go to a movie and go out to eat and spend that same amount of money. So, we have to look at it a little differently, too, in what is the dollar value that you're really getting out of this program. You go and sign up or take private lessons and pay $25 an hour for a musical instrument. I mean, some of this stuff is a no-brainer for parents, so I just, think about it a little differently, too.
Can I comment?
I don't think we want to do that. No.
There's a public comment section at the end of this.
There'll be one at the end.
So anyhow, I don't know how to balance that out, but it's just like some kids get left out of the mix altogether, and other kids get a lot more. And I part of that's by their own choice too. So
In terms of the work that we're going to do then, I mean, obviously, we've got some priority one lists that include extracurriculars for $47,000. Come next, there's going to be a forum on March 3rd. There's work that Kevin and Kim and the administration is doing in between here and there. So March 8th, we're going to have, again, a list of recommendations about, call it level 1 recommendations as opposed to priority 1 recommendations. If we wanted to, table some, most, or all of the extracurriculars, by the way, $2,000 of those extracurriculars are things that aren't even going on right now. They're just, they're dollar amounts that are allocated but are not being spent. So of the 45 that are being spent today, at that point, on the 8th, we can talk about whether we defer that conversation or engage that conversation about whether or not to actually not do them next year. But then beyond that, just my own way of thinking, beyond that and going into the spring and the summer and the fall for next year and what those activities look like and what our menu of options look like. Certainly starting this spring, we need to convene, Kevin, a committee that starts the big groundwork of what it means to engage a referendum question. What that referendum question entails, what kinds of things, because we've been through, this is the 3rd year of budget cuts. How much money do we want to go back for and try to get in the stuff that we maybe have touched last year? Because there's stuff we've touched last year that I think are still pretty critical too. So there's a lot of work to do around that committee and around the community. And then ultimately in the fall, we'll have to decide as a board about whether or not to proceed with that question and put it on a ballot. The earliest we can put it on a ballot is the spring of 12 or February of 12, about a year from now. So, but there's a lot of work in between here. If we defer on these clubs for a year as a result of that, it just means our models look a little bit worse than they otherwise would. And then, you get people to answer a question, and then you decide where to go from there. So, let's do the work that we have in front of us now. Let's tackle the question on the 8th, and then, we build to the bigger questions later.
I just don't want, and I think that's fine, I just don't want to fall into the situation where we've pinned all our hopes on a referendum being successful, and just, things will be even worse down the road.
Well,
and there's a certain level, and I know I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but there's a certain level I want to ease into this as well, so that it's not this.
Well, I'm thinking that we should also have start having those meetings and education presentations on the grade level centers to kind of get those discussions going.
Thank you, Kathy. I was going to ask that too.
You bet.
Well,
Doesn't that fall under the umbrella of the strategic plan, though? Didn't that, when we talked about it in one of the forums, is that would kind of fall under that umbrella, too?
So we've been talking about it for a long time, but we don't have a plan. And I think I'm starting to get a little frustrated with, we keep talking about grade level centers, but we don't actually talk about grade level centers. So, Kevin, just from my perspective, I'd like to see.
We need to set up meetings.
And we need to be saying to the community, this is how we're going to go about this. I agree with you. There are a lot of people who would benefit from understanding at a much greater depth what that means and how it works, and all of those things need to happen. I think it's time to get a plan in writing that says, here's how we're going to do that, and this is the time frame. We have some parents who would like to see grade level centers as early as next year. We have some who don't ever want to see them, and we have a whole lot who don't have any idea what we're talking about. So we need to close that gap first.
Yep.
But I'd like to comment what Joel was saying. One of the things, and I've heard it mentioned once or twice at community forum or different places, where there are parents whose children are involved in the co-curriculars and some of these extra activities that may be willing to, if it's $60 for a year to keep 6th grade jazz. I don't feel like we really know that answer, and I would like for us to figure out as quickly as possible, considering our pending decisions, how do we get to that answer? You know, are the sports parents and the music parents and the art parents, I mean, there's, you know, they're the parents that are the families that are directly impacted. We all are in the bigger picture, but this year, next year, I'd like to have a better understanding of what the appetite is within that group of our community.
Sure.
So if we can, you know, kind of figure out how to, I don't know exactly how we do that, but we need to figure out how to get that answer together so we can make better decisions.
The easiest way is just a brief survey, and it can be approached one of two ways. Either we, you know, can wait for Kim to generate some idea of a dollar amount and then ask that question, or you can kind of ask parameters, you know, are, you know, $25 per activity, 50, you know, what's kind of that threshold of pain that people would be willing to, you know.
Because I think for the short term, that can really change this discussion. And when we talk about referendum, we talk about some other things, but, you know, those are, the impact of those are a couple of years out minimum, and I want to make sure we take care of the now as well.
It's all revenue generation. It's just a question of where the revenue comes from.
And when.
But it's also educationally driven too, because there could be an educational benefit to this that we're not really communicating well or that we're missing.
Well, and one of the people that spoke this evening mentioned that it's very difficult to quantify the output of any of the co-curriculars, whether it's sports or art or music or anything that you're doing, and it is difficult, but we're hearing consistently, I mean, even with the library programs, I mean, everywhere you read, everything you see, I don't think there's anybody ever arguing that those things don't create a better academic result. I mean, I've never seen a single thing ever anywhere that even implied that was the case. So I think we can just take that and move forward now and figure out how do we keep as much as possible and what do we do short term and long term, and both those things need to happen at the same time.
Well, I guess that's what I did. I kind of looked at our overall budget for the district, and this, what's in front of us, is less than 0.5% of our whole entire budget. And this is what this, and one of the words that was talked about that I've heard is non-significant cuts. And I guess what we need to talk about is, you know, we're not sitting here talking about cutting a couple math classes or English or reading classes. Those are core things that we can't touch. So when a board's looking at an administration as cuts, these are the only kind of places you can look to. So I appreciate that the administration worked with the staff and to bring this to us. But the question that I ask is this notion that for less than half of our overall budget, if we could look into these avenues, and I guess I would almost say that, again, there's certain percentage of kids that play the big sports. But what about a child who can't do that, but yet finds their niche in one of these other things? I think no one knows what affects a child. So I would almost want that information with us to see. We have been told by members of our community that they would want to keep these programs. And whereas I agree with Kathy that we have raised them in the past, what do we do as a district if we don't have the money? We can't start cutting math classes.
And candidly,
So-
I really wish that people, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to say it this way. It's easy to defend every program. It is very easy. But when do we decide that we have to choose?
So, okay, so then let's do it. Let's stop talking about it.
Yep,
We all agree, we all agree, we all agree, we all agree. Let's stop agreeing and let's figure out what we're going to do about it. Seriously.
Every
because
program gets defended. That's
I-
great. I get it.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, if, you know, would like to see us get kind of two tracks together. We have a right now track we have to deal with right now to try and preserve some things. We have the longer term track related to bigger referendum revenue generation. We need a plan with dates, commitment from people in the community that are willing to be involved, and we need to have that very, very, very soon.
Having said that, that is driven by community members, by the way. The one thing that we have learned from conferences, the referendum decision, by the way, is not driven by the 7 of us here. It's by community members. So we want to start taking names for that, that would be, just sign up over there.
Contact Mr. Carey.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, but all due seriousness, if we look at what is in front of us, if we can find out if this piece that seems to be what affects people the most, if we can see if that gets us, is it less 2 months in the big picture if we go out to 2016? Because frankly, from where I sit, I would take that 2 months as opposed to cutting anything on this list. So I would much rather see all of these programs saved and go for that question, ask that question to the community. If it matters that much, let's ask it.
So Kevin, what's that going to take? Do you need one of us to spearhead this? I mean, as far as trying to get a survey together, or what can we, any one of us sitting up here, do to help get this on the road?
Administratively, we can generate the survey.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get that going.
Okay.
So.
Good. Okay, are we done?
Where are we? Well,
next item.
We're never done.
So we're gonna talk about this at the March meeting.
Right.
And you're hoping to get from the board a decision on the rest of the priority items. And in the meantime, we're gonna
We'll get that survey out and get information back.
And find out, yeah, okay.
And where is the March 3rd meeting?
It'll, without confirming with Mr. Fiala, although, would the auditorium be available, Steve? Because the musical would be over?
On the 3rd?
Yeah.
We have Mr. Sentinel that night.
So my guess, we'll confirm, but it looks like the commons of the junior high.
Okay.
So another forum on the 3rd.
Right.
Board meeting on the 8th.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else on
Well, a couple.
budget reduction?
I don't think budget reduction. A couple of things on, first, with regards to the scoreboard. Originally, the Westmont High School Athletic Boosters wanted to come this evening to discuss it with the full board. I know Kim Anderson has had several email conversations, and I think some phone conversations with Courtney Anderson with the Westmont Athletic Boosters, and he asked that rather than they attend tonight's meeting, if Kim and I would be willing to sit down next Monday evening with Courtney. I'm not sure if there will be other representatives there.
Just
to talk a little bit about it before the boosters make a recommendation.
Okay.
So to kind of update you, we're still working on that piece, still communicating, and hopefully we'll get some feedback from the boosters.
Hey, just a side note to say out loud for anybody listening, we're talking about a scoreboard. That money is totally different money than operating money. That's money that's set aside for capital projects. That's money we can't use to pay bills, pay salaries, or anything else. Just so everybody's clear, it's not like we're talking about taking money out of the operating budget and diverting it to this other scoreboard thing. It's money that's segregated for capital projects. I can't use it for anything else. Just need to throw that out there.
Kevin, I just have a quick question for Kim related to this issue. One of the items or questions that was brought up at the last meeting was about if the bids that we received really lined up with the specs. Have you made some progress as far as the conversation with the booster in getting those things lined up? And
we're going to have continuing conversation about that on Monday, but it's just as if, every scoreboard is going to be just a little bit different, just like every car is just a little bit unique, and some have, a little bit different feature. They may have the same feature, but it's presented in a little bit different way, much with the scoreboard.
so is that one of the major things that's kind of being discussed right now with the boosters, is that piece, how the differences line up and what that looks like?
We haven't received a lot of feedback, so hopefully on Monday we'll have a better understanding of really what their thought process is.
Okay.
So I can't really comment on that right now.
Thank you.
And just, I know you mentioned there was a board update that the projects list or
Right.
facilities list is gonna go, and then there are lots and lots and lots of projects that need attention that will come from that same pot of money that Dan is talking about. So if there are other things that you see being done, they are also coming from that pot of money that can't be used for salaries and benefits and that sort of thing too. But we have a lot of building needs, and I think we have a lot of prioritization work to do for all of our buildings.
And again, not a lot of money to do it.
Shortage
Limited
of money there too.
limited amount of money to do, so that prioritization question will be coming to the board at some point in March, where we want to prioritize those capital projects.
Right. Right.
Kim, maybe you can talk a little bit about the Capital Projects Fund. When did we get that money, and how much do we have?
Yeah. Sure. And along those lines, one of the things in my report is ADA compliant lift for Manning Elementary, and what I'm hoping to get from the board this evening, again, Steve Cashman is just he had an opportunity to take a look at those capital projects, and he took a look at that list, again, in terms of prioritizing, and then also the lens he was using if the district does go forward with any type of significant renovation of buildings, to make sure that the district isn't spending money on projects that you would lose the money, but rather we'd still have the benefit of those projects. And so that's what he's been doing. He did supply Kim and I with his initial look at it. The plan is to have the Building and Grounds Committee take a look at it, and then we'd bring it to the full board for discussion. The problem we're running into, though, is this one project, which would be something that we need to do because of a student in the building, and something that we're running up on a timeline from, I believe it's Mike, from engineering to installation, it's about 16 weeks?
Yes, 15 weeks.
15 weeks. And so, we want to make sure it's available at the opening of school in August. And that dollar amount is roughly about $150,000. And so, again, tonight it's not that definitely the district would go forward with it or approving it, but whether or not, if the board is comfortable with us at least going out to bid and getting that process started, that project as well as all the other projects will be part of that long-term discussion. But at least we can start down that road so that we don't find ourselves in a position where we're opening our doors in August and we haven't completed the lift.
And this is to move students between the levels in this building,
Correct.
right? So we actually, if we have a wheelchair-bound student currently, we have to take them outside,
Right.
around the building, into the loading dock in order to participate in anything on this level.
Yes. Yes.
So this is an ADA.
Right, this is an ADA compliant issue. Right, right.
What stairwell is that going to be?
Mike, is it?
It would be the stairwell on the far south end of the building.
Is that similar to is it Miller? Is that the similar?
And we've also had a fire prevention bureau look at that. too,
Okay.
to give us their blessing on that being an ideal location of the building for that type of.
Okay. I say yes.
Yes.
Bid it.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a larger question, though, you mentioned some of the information that Mr. Cashman's been putting together. I know that there's been people that want to participate in the facilities committee that have been knocking down your door. So I'll just knock on their behalf. Can you give us a sense of when that group will be able to start to interact with Mr. Cashman's information?
Hopefully we're reaching the end of our budget reduction conversations. And then the plan is that we, along with some of the other conversations we've had, but then we definitely want to start addressing the facilities question and pull that group together.
So that's middle of March then?
Right.
Or, okay.
Okay. Got a lot going on.
Just a little.
Just a little. Okay.
Okay, then the other thing is in terms of the WTA, the first Wednesday of each month is the communication meeting. And for February, primarily the conversation's focused on the budget reduction plan with Grant. And again, we're going to continue those conversations this Friday. There's an Institute Day, but prior to the start of that day, Grant and I will be sitting down. The other thing I can share with you as well, I know the board was approached by the association regarding retirement recognition. I believe at one of the special board meetings. And we are having those conversations as well. That was one of the cost containment from last year, the student or the teacher recognition and then retirement. And so the WTA is currently working on some plans on how to recognize those individuals. And so I'll be part of those conversations as well, and I'll bring forth to the board then some ideas of either how we can help augment that or how we can be involved in that process as well. Then the last thing is the March 10th, 2011 is the spring DuPage area spring meeting for the IASB. And so if you are interested in attending, please contact Judy and she will make our reservations for that event.
Okay, is that it on yours?
That's it.
Okay. Then, next item on the agenda, board reports. Are there any board reports at this time? Okay. Moving along. So under education, we had our library program that we heard that already. So thank you for that. Special ed, Mr. Price. You have anything?
Just a couple of things from the last SACID meeting. The last meeting included presentations about a couple of things. We had a presentation made on behalf of the SACID multi-needs students in Miss Laura Spoka's class at Westmont High School. I guess those students participated in the band craft show in December and made crafts, and I guess they also made dog biscuits as something to sell for that show. And the proceeds that they gathered was exceeded $400, and they donated those funds to the Benedictine University Paul Murphy Scholarship. And that scholarship is for incoming freshman students to Benedictine who graduate from SACID's Southeast Alternative School. So it's a nice project for the students to work on, learn some salesmanship and some craft making and some business skills, and it also had a nice outcome in funds going to that scholarship. The second presentation had to do with the CHAMPS program. Again, this is also a program that's at Southeast Alternative School, which is located in Naperville. And the CHAMPS program is a classroom management philosophy that's geared towards students with low cognitive abilities, but and behavioral challenges. And it's I kind of think it's almost like PBIS, but in the classroom all the time. And it's a management style that's focused on increasing student engagement and developing friendly peer interactions, and students work on helpful behaviors with each other, and they're focused on working together, and they track the results from this program as far as behavioral issues that occurred before and then after they ran with this program for a couple of months, and noticed a dramatic decrease in behavioral issues. And we all know when there's behavioral issues decrease in the classroom, student achievement increases. And so it's a program that they're looking at possibly expanding into other settings in the future. And those were the two main presentations at the meeting.
Okay. So then before we leave board reports, I'll say out loud one more time. One thing that is going on in our district that's fabulous is the musical that is this week. It is a showcase of how our district works really, really well. We have students, we have high school students that are making sets, that are playing in the band, that are appearing on stage. And for the first time in a number of years, just because of the play, we have a number of our elementary school students in it as well. And anyone who's been to any of the practices know that this is, again, what we do really well. So I did tell, I asked to make sure that there were tickets still available, and there are tickets still available, so get them fast. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So contact the Fine Arts Department at the high school and get your tickets. This is what we do well, and congratulations in advance to everybody who's working on it. So. Finance?
All right, this evening, we'll start out with the presentation of our nutrition program. And again, as has been the trend over the course of the year, our expenditures are exceeding revenues. This is something that we'll address for next year. Obviously, participation numbers are a little bit lower this year. And we'll look at with some of the changes that were made to food offerings, and we will look at lunch prices for next year. So we'll probably be bringing a recommendation to increase the cost of lunch next year, but we're still looking at that. The activity accounts are presented for you in detail by each account. As we look at the fund balance, ending fund balance as of January 31st is $13.4 million. Again, you'll continue to see that fund balance decrease over the next several months until we get the next installment of taxes in early June.
And the capital, just to isolate, because somebody asked about it, the capital, the working cash, which is where the bond proceeds went, is about $2.2 million.
Correct.
And there is life safety, there's dollars in the life safety fund, which also fund effectively capital projects related to life safety of $822,000. So there's, but just so everyone's clear, those bond proceeds were funded in 2007. And they need to last us until about 2016. So there's about $2.2 million that needs to last us about 5 years. So it's not as much as it sounds.
Just a quick question about, and just thinking about that lift project, is that would that qualify, or would it be a good idea to use that? Didn't you have that grant for 1.2? Wasn't that for accessibility issues at the elementary buildings?
Grant for 1.2.
Yeah, the capital, the State of Illinois capital bond, and yes, we should look at that. Because it's not all of it, right? Yeah.
Okay.
It's not all of it, but it's, it's a dollar of that money for every two of ours. Right?
Okay. Yeah, we can look at that.
And I guess that, piggybacking on what Dan said, I guess that brings us to, 2.2 might sound like a lot, but once we start looking at the priorities of what has to be done, that's going to be
hard.
Very hard.
Like everything else.
Okay, and then in terms of investments, the district has $3.9 million in investments right now, and the majority of those will, actually all of them will be maturing during this fiscal year. All right, and then before we get to the budget summary, one of the things I did want to highlight this evening in the consent agenda, you approved the Optiman fiber contract, and for those of you who aren't aware, we are doing a new 5-year contract for our fiber. And Nancy Battaglia and her staff worked on this project for us, and the end result of that is that we're going to have a more robust configuration for our fiber connections between our buildings, have a higher level of service, all the while saving $4,100 annually. So I just think it's important. There's been a lot of comments about, looking at things, thinking outside of the box and things, and I want to assure you that all all the staff here. I've talked at length with our administrative staff. We talk with some of our teachers and things like that, send out memos that tell them, you know, we're making some changes operationally because of the savings and looking at how we do business. And I just want to highlight the fact that, you know, we continue to review all aspects of the budget and look for ways that we can provide efficiencies and cost savings, and look for ways to do things a little bit differently, and hopefully in that process provide a better quality of service to the constituents of our district. So this is just another area where we've been successful in that. When we look at our revenues for the month, in January we collected our had the last collection of the 2009 levy. Overall, the collections were 99.34% of the levy. This is down from last year. Last year we collected 99.7%. 5-year average is 99.6%. So our total uncollected levy revenue was $131,000. Another thing I want to highlight is IASBA, which is the Illinois Association of School Business Officials, has been working with ISB on some budget recommendations, and an update from them indicates that a worst-case scenario for fiscal year 11, which is a school year we're in right now, would be receipt of one mandated categorical payment. So again, our transportation, some of our special ed funding, and those things. To date, we have not received any of our transportation revenue. So at this point, one payment would be welcome. Obviously, we're looking for all four, but I don't think that's going to happen. So again, as we start looking at things, we'll start to do some modeling with some of these scenarios. So the budget reductions that we're talking about now are critical in helping to maybe tide us over again if we don't receive some of our state revenues as well. We need to be cognizant of that. The other thing with the Alliance legislative report that comes out and gives us an update on what's happening in Springfield, we're looking at possibly the transportation being funded at 50 cents on the dollar for next year. So we need to be aware of what that might do to us. And then, you know, there's some considerations out there about, you know, possibly the student per pupil level going up, but we don't know. And we won't know, unfortunately, when we're putting together our budget. We have to make decisions now based on information we may not know for 3 to 6 months down the road. In a perfect world, the state would have their budget put together and we would know those funding levels and we could make decisions based on that. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. So we model and plan with the information that we have at a certain point in time and make adjustments as we get updated information.
Kim, can I ask, this was something that was actually brought up at the forum. There were some questions about this. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, what we're hearing is that, you know, we have to provide this transportation, yet the state is only giving us back like 50%. So we have to provide this, yet, and then we have to pay for half of it. So we're only getting back half of that money.
Right, and right now we haven't received any.
And we haven't received any. So maybe.
Right.
So right now, we you know, there's $188,000 in transportation vouchers that they owe us.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, the state owes us $413,000 in education and tort funds.
Yep.
So in total, the district owes us about the state owes us about $600,000 that we're due that we don't have in hand. But they've said we might pay you, maybe not.
And I think that's an important piece to mention again, so that people know that this is part of the reason why we don't have a lot of money, because of this. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, so anyway, again, as Dan said, we are receiving the state is sending us our payments for our general state aid, our free and reduced lunch and breakfast, and our driver education revenue. However, there's over $413,000 of payments that they've vouchered, but they haven't released to us for payment in the education and tort fund. In the O&M fund, we've started to see a leveling off that brings our revenues in line with prior years, and should end that on where we have budgeted. Transportation fund, again, $188,000 has been vouchered by the state, but we haven't received those payments yet. And one of the things I'll just make the board aware of is, depending upon how that revenue comes in, we may need to do a loan from the working cash fund to the transportation fund in the next month or so, so that our fund balance doesn't go negative, and then we receive those tax revenues, we'll pay the working cash fund back. So that's just something to be aware of. Expenditures, on the expenditure side, our education fund is running as projected. It's just slightly higher than prior years. In the O&M fund, we continue to be well below average. Some of this is attributable to our supply budget, which is only 52% spent right now, and our purchase services are 47% spent. The good news is some of that is a result of our utility costs. So as long as, weather holds out and the trend continues, that should look good, and we maybe actually come in under budget in that, in the operations and maintenance fund. One of the things too I'll be bringing to you possibly the next board meeting or the meeting after is a contract for our utility services for the gas and electric to lock in some rates, and that helps us to budget and avoid some of the peaks and valleys. Obviously there's benefits to that. You can kind of budget to a certain level. However, if you lock in and rates go significantly lower, maybe you've lost, but hopefully overall it averages out for the district. And then transportation fund, again, expenditures are trending a little bit below the prior year there, and we should see, a kind of a leveling off. Part of that's, again, because last year they paid some of the payments from the prior year. So that's everything on the financials for those.
Does the state, just out of curiosity, because I know they pay interest on money they owe private vendors. They don't pay, we're just kind of like family, aren't we?
Right. Yeah, they don't pay us interest.
And I would like to say that thank you for giving us this information about the OptiMan fiber contract, and a savings of $4,000. That's really good, because everywhere we can find, this is another, like you're talking about, thinking outside the box.
This is doing more with less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Then, in terms of the February 2011 expense report, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the bills for the month of February 2011 as presented in attachment number F4 in the amount of $1,085,285.49.
So moved. Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Just very quickly before we do have another opportunity for a public comment, but I just want to reference that currently right now there's a link on all of our school web pages. It's our strategic planning survey. We're starting that process with the survey. It's been up for a few weeks. Originally, we're looking to close that February 28th, but we've had some discussions of extending that to March 4th. And so I do encourage you, if you haven't visited our website, there is a link there to take the survey. Some of the questions that have been discussed this evening, there's a question about grade centers on the survey. There's a question of how to prioritize when we do take a look at budgeting and budget cuts, so that, long term, when we are having these discussions, we have a strategic plan to fall back on that help to guide some of our decision making, which we're currently in limbo a little bit right now because the one plan is expired and we still have to implement a new plan, revise that current plan. If you or somebody who does not have access to a computer, you can contact one of our buildings and we'll make arrangements for you to come in and take the survey as well. So please, encourage your neighbors as well, and encourage people to take the survey. That feedback is vital for us as we develop that long-range plan for our district.
Are there any other public comments?
Got two.
Three.
Mike,
So,
here, Mike,
Mike.
the gentleman in front first.
you'll both get a chance to talk.
Together.
Hi, Mike Graham.
You could do it together.
Yeah, that's what I said to you. All right. My name is Mike Graham. I have one child at Miller and two more. They're going to be working their way through the school district. I'm going to talk really fast because this is going to take way more than 5 minutes. All right, so just from a data point standpoint, I'm going to use a salary of $100,000 as a baseline because we do have more than 20 teachers that make over $100,000. If you work 12 months of the year, that's $8,300 a month, which equates to $48 an hour. If you make $100,000 and you work 9 months of the year, that's $11,000 a month, and it equates to, on a 2,080 hours, because everything's equal, that's $64.10 an hour. So $48 versus $64, just a data point, no opinion. All right, it's unfortunate that this wasn't on TV tonight.
It's being taped.
Is it
and
live?
No, it's not live, but it will be.
Oh, that's good.
Will be broadcast.
No.
There are lots of people that watch this at home, as I'm sure everyone's heard the feedback.
No,
So
it's being taped.
good, and it will be on TV.
Yes.
Oh, good,
and,
good, good.
And the website, and yes.
Great. Okay, the next part is, thank you for all the effort in working with the union on the contract. However, it's unfortunate that you voted on the contract before you were finished with the public forums. Just learn through this experience, if you don't mind. If you're going to ask for the public for their comments before you vote, wait to vote until you get all the comments. Just an idea. And I wanted to say thank you to Ms. Casey for asking about the grade level centers. First of all, I'm a huge fan. I know a lot about them, and I'm a huge fan. So I'm one of those. As you're putting, and thank you for asking for tactical information and putting, because that's really what we need is data. I received 3 phone calls from parents after the last public forum who happen to know me, asking me for data on what a grade level center is. I'm not supposed to be the expert, okay? So please, don't make me the expert. So tactical information, questions I was asked specifically were, what the heck is it? So that's where we're starting. Really, how much money is it going to save us? And is it effective? That was the big piece. Do you actually get a better curriculum out of a grade level center? And I said, and people want data points of studies, because I've seen the studies that they're better, but others haven't, and I shouldn't be the expert. Okay, and then thank you to Mrs. Casey for discussing clubs at Miller. Thank you, I appreciate it as a Miller parent. However, if you don't mind, it's a great step, but it's the curriculum really that has the clubs are important too, but the curriculum between the two schools is drastically different. Drastically. So the grade level centers is, will help that, but it would be nice if we looked at making, some sort of synergy between the curriculum, because grade level centers is a couple years away, and to get there for the junior high curriculum together would be the best.
Mike, I have to interrupt you just for a second. I don't think it's fair to say that the curriculum is drastically different. The kids may be different. The teaching may be different. the takeaway from that, the testing may be different, the outcomes from those schools may be different, but, you know, the curriculums are not drastically different.
That's not the feedback I've received from parents. I don't see the curriculums for the two schools, so I can't say with certainty because I'm not the expert, but
you should take an opportunity to visit with Mr. Carey about that, and with Mrs. Boss, and with Mrs. Mulby, but to assert that publicly without having had those conversations is, you know, I think is unfair until you have that conversation with them.
Okay, well, we certainly take it offline, but I do have examples. Sure. Science fair was a good one. Anyway, the next is, Mr. Price, you had asked for ideas for how to deal with the possible unfairness, if there's such a word, for a fairer approach to programs and costs. In the public sector, it's typically referred to as a use tax, so like paying tolls on a toy. In private sector, it's invoicing. For you buy 50 nuts, you get charged for 50 nuts. In schools, I suspect it's a fee, part of the program. So if you want to have people pay their fair share, and you base it on their use of that program, which would be a fee, just economics. And then you guys brought up the capital money. It's on my list. Yes. 2 different buckets, reminder. And we should start focusing on that truly from the facilities committee. And I'm glad that we're going to be meeting, or those who are going to be on it, are going to be meeting. And I look forward to that date. And all right, now the most unpopular, and are you ready? Have you considered selling South School? It's a lot of land. It's about 6 lots, and under normal circumstances, each lot is $200,000. In this market, it's maybe $100,000. It's $600,000, and as long as we're looking at Band-Aids, that'd get us through this year.
I'll jump in here and say that that is an area that's on their strategic planning survey. So again, if people could comment on that, because again, the board needs to hear what the community thinks of what to do with that property.
Yes.
So
great.
And clearly the facilities committee can
yes,
that's great.
See if there's other options for that space as well, since we have 2 grade schools and we're still talk about having all this breakout space and additional space, and I think it's a great area to discuss.
I think it's fantastic that we're talking about it, because it's school districts aren't very good landlords. And as we all look at our core competencies, eliminating those peripheral items is advisable, my opinion. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Walker.
Hi, I just wrote down some notes here. Again, I'm kind of new to this. I haven't attended the previous forums, but the cost of the co-curriculars or extracurriculars that everyone is considering cutting is $50,000?
47.
And that's on an annual basis that, that deficit is running at, correct?
Well, I mean, that's the annual cost of the stipend associated with staffing that curricular.
Okay. I think that's peanuts. I think that there should be some level of resources of reworking through our own community here. Trying to get some private money to get into the pool. I don't want to see any kid have anything cut. I think that, I'll take a collection tonight. But my other question was referendum. If the how many taxpayers do we have in Westmont?
Wow, that's a complicated question because it's not just households, it's commercial. We're 60.
Okay, so there hasn't been any
Well, it's a complicated question that can get answered at a lot of levels.
Okay, so we really haven't done any, rough due diligence as to, what that would be or anything?
No, numbers and sizing and all that stuff, no.
Okay, and then...
Coming.
Okay. And then regarding labor, was there any talk of bringing in an arbitrator? Is that possible?
We had a mediator.
Okay, all right.
Didn't get to the arbitration portion.
Okay, so everything was settled beforehand. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Reed?
Okay, so I don't want to take up too much time, it's been long, but I just wanted to stress, as you guys have already mentioned, that I think going forward, transparency of the budget and decisions that you guys are making is vitally important. I've only seen the emails about the public forums. Just recently, there was no other further going into it. I think that this process should have been started a long time ago, and going forward for next year, that we already have to start now to look to see where we're going to be at next year. And grade level centers is a part of that. And personally, I don't know a lot about grade level centers. I was one of the people who said that we would need more information, and we need that information to be passed out to all the individuals in the community, and we need to find out if that is going to be something, because whether to say that the differences between Manning and Miller are substantial or whatever the verbiage that Mike used, they are different, and they shouldn't be, because my child is going to go to the same 6th grade class that a Manning's child is going to go to, and she needs the same education. She needs to be on an equal playing field, because that will set her for the rest of her life. And also, as far as fees, you're talking about fees and increases, and I want to bring up that maybe one of the things that we're lacking is some fundraising, because if you were to bring to the parents, if your child is going to be involved in X activity, you will be responsible. When my daughter was in cheerleading, I was responsible for $200 in fundraising. And if I didn't come up with that $200, then I would have to pay it. Okay, so there are other ways other than just saying arbitrarily there's a fee. You could organize different types of fundraising events to give parents an opportunity to come up with that money, not necessarily out of their own pocket, but from the community and from businesses and other people. And the other question I just have is, for the scoreboard, was that vandalism or was that wear and tear? Because if it was vandalism, wouldn't insurance cover that?
No, it's age of the scoreboard.
It's age.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it.
No, while you're standing here, I just wanted to point out, because there was a comment about the geography bee. There was a geography bee at Miller, and that student will be recognized at the next meeting.
But I, as a parent, don't even know it exists. Okay. And that's a problem.
Okay, and I just wanted to let you know that it does.
Right, I appreciate that. I believed you when you said it, but if I don't know what my child can be involved in, that's a problem. And a lot of times at Miller specifically, because I have no experience of Manning, a lot of times papers will come home after the fact. I will find out information after my child already missed the opportunity to be involved in it. I know we're looking at eliminating paper, and a lot of it is email. I've signed up for email reminders. I get those things. But I think that there needs to be a serious communications. There's a serious communications issue, at least personally for me, between the school and myself, and what my child can be involved in and what's going on with the whole process.
I wanted to make sure that was known, that's the board does.
I appreciate it, but if I don't know about it, it doesn't do anything for me.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, sure. One here, and then.
I know everyone wants to go home, so I just have a couple comments on the things that we said.
Could you state your name first?
Mary Johnson. I have a daughter at the high school and one that just graduated at the high school. First, kudos to all that spoke about the fine arts. I am a big fan of fine arts. I have children in fine arts. I have children in sports. So everyone spoke eloquently. Let's save our fine arts. You're talking about things like, let's not say, let's just save this, let's just save this, what can we do? Both of the, I'm involved in both the athletic boosters and the Band Parent Association at the high school. And both organizations are working on helping meet these needs. All this talk about the scoreboards, and you'd want to spend money on the scoreboard. The boosters are trying to buy the scoreboard. That's the thing, to take it off the plate. That's what we're trying to do. So this money we're not asking for money for the scoreboard. And Kim is having conversations, and we're trying to work that out, because the boosters understand that is something that's low on the priority list. But at the high school, you have to have scoreboards if you're going to have sports. You just do, and they're falling apart. The other thing is with fees. whether we can charge fees for clubs and stuff. I know that's a hard thing. But when the budget cuts were being discussed last year, it was the parents that got together and said, hey, we have kids in sports. We are willing to up what we pay. It was the parents that came up with this. And we will pay, and we will pay for our kids to be in sports because that's a big deal. And so we have, and this is income that's been generated for the district, but this money does not go back to these sports. You know, I have a daughter that plays 2 sports. I know parents who have multiple children who play multiple sports, and they pay this $90 for every sport that their child is in. And this fee does not go back to that sport. It goes into the district pot. So to ask more for, you know, you guys are the ones who have to figure out whether a sport is something that will cost the district more than an art club or whatever. And, you know, if someone's in, I can't even think of a club, but if it doesn't, you know, cost money, then a fee doesn't need to be associated with it. So that's all I have to say. Oh, the thing you said, do the survey. I did the survey, and one of those things is on the grade center thing. I was blindly answering that question, not knowing the consequences of what does this cost, what are the advantages to our students, what are the disadvantages to this district, is it going to cost us money, whatever. So I did answer the survey questions, but some of them were kind of, that one especially, I don't know what I was answering, or what consequences my answers are going to be to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a question over here?
Hi, my name's Pete Burrell. I have a son in junior high and a couple kids go through the high school. Wow, that's really all I got to say. This is my first time ever coming to one of these meetings. I probably started coming a couple years ago had I known. Talking about a referendum, some people on the board are saying, you know, this is what got us here. I myself as a parent had trust in, I don't know who it was I had trust in, to know that my son and my daughters be able to go to school and have the same opportunities I had as a child. And it doesn't look like it. I don't know. Parents, the schools you were in, you had all this stuff, you just didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it. Why are we here? That's my question to you guys. Why are we here? What happened? And solve it. We'll all solve it together and move on. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
One more.
Okay, this will be our last public comment.
Over the past few years, I've heard comments about our school board not being able to work together and not trusting them, and I do commend you on giving us this opportunity to speak, and I think a major bridge has been kind of crossed here. And I think that you are willing to work with us, as most of the parents have probably been kicked in the head to know that we need to start working with you as well. So just wanted to say that. And one final comment, I have had children at both Manning and Miller, and there is a significant difference. There is. That's just pretty much it. I think fundraising, I think that's a great idea. I know that stipends are also being paid for volunteers, which to me that doesn't make sense, because if you're a volunteer you shouldn't be getting a stipend. You know, I'd be willing, rather than cut a program, to maybe put in some time to, I know there's several coaches here that run summer programs. You know, if cutting the fall play is up, you know, I'd be more than happy to direct it. So, you know, pro bono. So, you know, like I said, I think that there's other alternatives that we can work for. We're just in a time crunch, so, you know, I just don't want to be desperate and make decisions that are so hard to bring back again. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
One quick thing.
I'm Bob Reed. I just want to bring this up. There was a referendum many, many years ago that most of these people may not know in Westmont about South School. It was going to close at the time. I don't know if the referendum passed it or not.
1986.
I don't remember if it passed or not.
It did in
But
1986.
this is not the first referendum we've had to go through. It's happened before.
Dan, was 86 the last referendum in
Last
Westmont?
ed rate referendum, yes.
That passed.
Yes.
Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining and personnel issues.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Yes. And there will not be a vote after the closed session. Thank you.